Gruesome Griselda by David Walliams, illustrated by Tony Ross. Gruesome Griselda. Creepy crawlies are called creepy crawlers for a reason. They are creepy and crawly. Slugs, worms, spiders, caterpillars, and cockroaches are creatures that give most people the creeps. Not Griselda. Griselda was a girl who loved creepy crawlies. If she saw a worm wiggling around in the mud, she would pick it up and put it in her pocket. Now, worms don't make the best pets. Worms don't come if you call them worm. If you throw a worm a stick, it won't bring it back. Worm, fetch. You can't train worms to do tricks. Worm, roll over. Worm, beg. Worm, paw. However, Griselda had other plans for these slimy creatures. The little girl would use them to give people the willies. Griselda attended an incredibly posh all-girls boarding school, the Duchess of Queensberry's school for girls with extremely wealthy parents. The school was full of young ladies with long hair and even longer names, like the Honourable Lady Antonia Rose Huddington Smyre. They were all more perfect than perfect, with their perfect skin and perfect teeth and perfect nails. In their spare time, the girl liked to press wildflowers, embroider lace, handkerchiefs, and decorate fairy cakes. Griselda delighted in bringing the odd one out. The little girl never brushed her hair, so it was like a bird's nest. Topped it off with grotty purple hair scrunchie. She loved having black grime under her fingernails, and most of all, Griselda was proud to be more than a little pongy. The very proper headmistress, Mrs. Fraggant, would take one look at the girl and bawl at her, "Griselda, you need a bath." "No thank you, headmistress. Lying in your own filthy bathwater for hours can't be healthy." Then off Griselda would bound to roll in some mud, drag herself through a bush or lie in a puddle. When night fell, Griselda would sneak out of her dormitory to find some creepy crawlies. Then she used to play gruesome tricks on everyone else at school. This is when at this time the little girl gathered hundreds of leeches. She placed them under the covers of the head girl's bed. A nasty, slippery surprise was waiting for Lady Clarissa Jane Heavily Bainham when she slid between the sheets. "Ah!" screamed the girl as outside the window gruesome Griselda sniggered to herself. Hee. Or there was that day when Griselda spied a pair of the headmistress' frilly bloomers hanging on the washing line of her garden. Griselda picked up 2 longest tickless caterpillars she could find and then hid them in the ladies' knickers. The morning in assembly, as Mrs. Fraggant was leading the entire school in prayers, Mrs. Headmistress found herself unable to keep still. Oh! Her bottom never felt so itchy. Ah! All the schoolgirls looked at the lady aghast. All the usually proper Miss Fraggant wriggled and hopped around the stage, yelping like a little dog. Yap, yap, yap. Only Griselda knew the reason why. Sitting in the back row of the school hall, she couldn't help smirking all the chaos she had caused. Worst of all, the time on prize-giving day when the guest of honour at the school was none other than Her Majesty the Queen. The Queen was there to hand out the prizes to all the girls who were even more superior than the others and give a speech on how best to succeed in life. When all that was happening, Griselda, who was unlikely to be burdened with any prize unless there was the cheesiest feat, sneaked off to the school kitchen. Then she replaced all the cucumber in the sandwiches with live slippery slugs. As all the prize winners took tea and sandwiches to the garden party after with the Queen, everyone was on their absolute best behaviour, even though the cucumber sandwiches tasted disgusting. The teachers, parents and prize-winning girls all swallowed them without complaint. No one wanted to make a scene in the presence of such a disgusted guest. Delightful sandwiches, said one old duchess. Yes, this cucumber is so fresh-tasting, replied a countess. It's almost as if it's alive. Well, would you spit out the food in front of Her Majesty the Queen? Well, nobody except Her Majesty the Queen. This was for the simple reason that she was Her Majesty the Queen already. Her Royal Highness took one bite of her slug sandwich and immediately spat it out. Blah! She screamed as she splattered the food all over the headmistress. Breadcrumbs covered Miss Fragrant's hair, while a half-chewed slug ended up stuck to her glasses. Above their heads was a branch of a tree, bouncing up and down. Griselda was hiding up there, hooting to herself uncontrollably. There was a live slug in my sandwich, barked the Queen. Is that so? Replied the headmistress, squirming with embarrassment as all eyes turned to her. Does your Royal Highness not like live slugs as a sandwich filling? No, replied the Queen, and not dead ones either. Noted, we promise never to see your Royal Highness any slug-based snacks next time. There won't be a next time, spluttered the Queen as she marched off to the direction of the royal's voice. Slug sandwiches I have been served for revolting food on my travels, but this is the absolute worst. Have the headmistress locked in a dungeon in the Tower of London. It's a museum now, ma'am, replied her lady-in-waiting. Well, then lock her up in the gift shop, snapped the Queen. She slumped her foot in the back of the royal wraith. Put your foot down, man. Yes, ma'am, replied the chuffier as the beast of a car zoomed away, the flags flapping in the wind. And stop at the nearest kebab shop. I need to have something to take this disgusting taste away, the Queen barked, desperately trying to rub the slug juice off her tongue with a lace handkerchief. This was the darkest day in the school's long history. Immediately, all the pupils, parents and teachers were gripped by this mystery. Who was the phantom creepy crawly's pest? Wanted posters were put up all over the school. Wanted. Do you know who put leeches in the head girl's bed, hid caterpillars in the headmistress' undergarments, and put an unspeakable creature in the otherwise delicious sandwiches of Her Majesty the Queen on prize-giving day? Information wanted. $1,000 reward given for any information that leads to their capture. All the girls at Duchess of Queenberry's were too rich to care about a mere £100, so the reward had to put up to £1,000. This was a whole week's pocket money to some of these girls. Still, there were more attacks. A toilet bowl in the staff room was filled with cockroaches. They slipped to the bottom of the history teacher, Mrs. Wolsey, as soon as she sat on the toilet seat. Ouch! A huge hairy spider gave the art teacher, Mrs. Hockney, the shock of her life when it was put in her box of breeches and the lady tried to pin it to her chest. Ah! And all the school matron came in for a nasty surprise that when she poured herself a large tumbler of whiskey at the end of the day, only to find the bottle was full of live maggots. No! Every time Griselda played a nasty trick on someone, she wanted it to be even more gruesome than the last. Mornings before school, Griselda would rise down to go down to the pond to fish out some tadpoles, frogs and newts. Lunchtimes were spent foraging in the grounds for beetles, centipedes and woodlice. In the dead of the night, Griselda would sneak out of bed to dig the school playing fields for worms. Each night she would put hundreds of the wiggliest worms in this wheelbarrow and take them back to her geometry. All the creatures would be stored in huge trunk under the girl's bed. It was a treasure trove of yuck. Soon the trunk was a swirling, whirling mass of creepy crawlies. Griselda would laugh to herself as she poured in her latest finds. Hee 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 hee. When she finally slipped into bed after her Fogwallian expeditions, Griselda would dream up as her next nightmare. The bigger, the badder, and the better. From out of the darkest corner of her mind crawled the nastiest of thoughts. Could Griselda use all these creatures at once? That way she could create the most gruesome trick of all time. This would be her masterpiece. It was a gruesome plan, even by Griselda's standards. The little girl decided she would fill the headmistress's bath from top to bottom with creepy crawlies. Miss Pregance always lectured Griselda having a jolly good soak, and would often raspberry to her pupils in assembly on the joy of bath times. Girls, you must bathe at least thrice a day. It cleans and just the body, but more importantly the mind, she would say. As soon as it went dark, Griselda dragged her heavy trunk to the headmistress's cottage. She climbed into the house through an open window and found the bathroom. The bath was already full of hot water, and the smell sweet of lavender oil hung in the air. It was a smell that made Griselda feel sick. Yuck! The lights in the bathroom were dimmed and candles were placed around the bath. The girl pulled the plug and drained the bath of water. In the next room she could spy the headmistress in her nightgown, putting her long grey hair up in a bath cap and red lint for her nightly soak. Next the gruesome girl put the plug back in and poured all the creepy crawlies from her trunk into the bath. She filled it to the brim. It was a terrifying sight. All those creepy crawlies crawling over each other. It was a sea of horrors. Griselda stood back and admired her work. Hee. She sniggered to herself as the wicked picture she had painted in her mind of Mrs. Fragan unrippily slipping in the bath. However, as the little girl was lost in thought, the headmistress swung open the bathroom door. Bang! The door knocked Griselda clean over, and she toppled headfirst into the bath. Ah! In seconds, the creepy crawlies covered her. They devoured her instantly. The headmistress desperately tried to pull Griselda out of the bath. Griselda! Griselda! But there was nothing left of the girl, save for a half-eaten purple hair scrunchie. In a way, Griselda had been right. Baths were not for her. If she had lived, the girl would have learned an important lesson. Never play tricks on people that you wouldn't want played on you. The end.